Hello. Um, I just wanted to very briefly speak about my new favorite book on writing, A Swim in a Pond in the Rain. Um, it's been sitting there for a while. I pre-ordered it when Live I Live made his video on it about a year ago. And then suddenly I saw my friend on the next pile had the same book, and we were like, what should we bring to Scotland? What should we, because we were going for a hike there. And what should we read? And she was like, I think I'm gonna take this. I'm like, I have the same book, let's read it. And it was a wonderful experience. This read has been very interesting, incredibly didactic. I feel like I've improved as a reader and as a writer through the reading of this book. And even if you are not into writing, because this is mainly a book about writing, but obviously learning about writing also teaches you about reading if you are not into that. But even if those two things don't make it for you, this is still a wonderful collection of short stories that your Saunders guides you, and your Saunders guides you through them. I'm not gonna get into a lot of depth on this book because once she's back, I will probably just make a video with her and just talk about it on camera. But yeah, so basically you have multiple stories and the support that he gives. So you have the first story, which is In the Cart by Chekhov. This is all Russian writers. George Saunders has been teaching Russian literature for years, many years. He's probably the most important English-speaking teacher of this kind of writing. So we have In the Cart by Anton Chekhov, which is a kind of an exception in the book because In the Cart is separated between page by page. So you go like, you have one page of the story, and then a few pages of him explaining what's happening, asking you very thoughtful questions, and bringing into the table things that you might have not thought about. And so by the end of that story, you are left with so many tools for the rest of the story, so many methodologies that you can adopt from what he's given you, or he's just reminded you that you could do, because often we just read in, not necessarily autopilot, but we just forget that we have so many other tools to just break down a story, and this is a very good reminder of it. Then you have The Singers by Ivan Turgenev, which is one of my least favorite stories on this book. But yeah, it's basically about a number of singers on a bar, and one of them sings, and he's the best. The story is obviously more than that. I'm just trying to sort of like very superficially tell you, but yeah, I just didn't like it that much. The Darling by Chekhov again. It was actually quite good. It's about a woman that cannot live without loving, but her form of loving is very selfish. It's about really her, not about the other person, and about where that takes her to the last moment of her life. That was a very good story, but then I read Master and Man by Leo Tolstoy, which was much better than anything else. I did not like the end of Master and Man, and then I found that on the afterthought from George Saunders, he recommends you to rewrite the end, because the reason why I didn't like the end of Tolstoy Master and Man is the same reason why I have problems with most of the things that Tolstoy writes, which is that he's preaching, he's teaching, he's trying to teach you all the time. And probably his teachings were very useful back in his time, and they might be very useful to many people. They are not useful for me. They are not new or anything like that. So his story was very good, mainly because Tolstoy is really good at just like getting into people's heads and creating well-rounded people. I still remember when he got in the head of I don't remember the name of the son of Anna Karenina. I don't remember, but in Anna Karenina, when he gets in the head of the son of Anna Karenina, I realized that this was the best, like the most real child's head I had ever read, and for that I would never say that he's a bad writer. Like, he's definitely the best writer I have read, but he always leaves me unsatisfied for that reason. And with with Master and Man, I discovered how much you can interact with this book, and I just started filling the margins of the pages with my alternative story. As you may see here, and basically I will do a read aloud once I'm back. Probably I will start it of this story, and I will try to present mine as an alternative. My ending, I mean. So I will read both endings once I get to the end of the short story, and see what happens. Then the nose, which I already talked about on a different video, comparing it with the Moustache by Carrier. Gooseberries, which I just made a video about, which will probably come out before this. And Alyosha the Pot by Leo Tolstoy, which was another case of me sort of like not really satisfied with a Tolstoy story. Not really seeing what Saunders is really, he really makes a case for every story. And in this case, it just didn't hold. In every other case in this book, it held. I was like, yeah, okay, fair enough. But in Alyosha and the Pot, it's like, yeah, for sure, you've added value to what I just read. But I'm still thinking, luckily, that I'm lucky that it was only 3 pages, because it's not my kind of thing. I much rather, if I'm gonna be sort of like preacher, I much rather just read a Bible or some religious text, but at least I know I'm going there with that premise. But yeah, that's basically it. George Saunders' reflections are just so good in general, and he talks about so many, like, his reflections on writing, his reflections on what writing does, like what is fiction, what fiction does exactly. It causes an incremental change in the state of a mind. That's it, but it really does. That change is finite, but real. And that's not nothing. It's not everything, but it's not nothing. He's very real, he's just completely there, not really talking down to you or anything like that. He's just chatting. This is a bar talk. When you finish this book, George Saunders is a friend. And you don't get that very often. Not in this way, not that much. And it's full of very good, cool anecdotes. There's one by Robert Frost, which I totally agree with, which is about like a student was talking to Robert Frost, and he was like basically telling him all the problems, and Robert Frost was like, don't worry, work. And then he sort of like goes on to talk about that, and I just think that is their solution to everything. I don't believe in talent. I think it's just work. And over there is, in that page, he just put so well. Yeah. Again, like, it's just so much to talk about this book. I feel like I will go into much more depth over the next weeks once my friend is back. But definitely, if this is a topic that interests you a lot, at all, or if you are interested in either Russian literature, reading or writing, then you should get this book. Have a nice day.